Started. My name is Joe. I'll be your teacher today. I work at Flatiron School. Today is our last day of the course. I'm pretty excited. I think we get into some pretty advanced stuff on Corvid, as well as medium level advance on the JavaScript, but it's mostly about Corvid today. If you all remember the past few courses we have built, we've learned how to use collections, which is kind of Corvid's internal database. We've learned how to query the database. We've learned how to use HTML5 geolocation. We've learned how to do backend files, node modules. We've learned a ton. But today what we're going to learn about is we're going to mostly expand, I would say, on the backend side. We're not really going to touch, I think we're not going to touch the front end at all in today. Today we're going to learn about how to send emails, right? So what we're going to do is when someone selects their bike, we're going to, and says book now on the bike, we're going to then send them an email that says, congrats, you booked this bike, here's the date, blah, blah, blah. We're going to learn how to do scheduled tasks. So we're going to have a scheduled task that every week we send a email to all the people who have a bike booking coming up saying, hey, coming up, you got a bike booked. And we're going to learn a lot about the users and Wix database, Wix collections through it all. All right. Get things started. We have a template that is the solution code from last time. And we'll be using that to get the ball rolling today. All right. I'm going to post that in the chat. And of course, for those of you watching on YouTube, it'll be in the comments below. It'll be in the description below. I'm going to paste that in. And I'm going to also paste it in on my side. And, oh, whoops, I pasted the wrong thing in. I pasted the wrong thing in, I'm sorry. Let's see, can I delete that? Nope, that was one of my slides. Let me paste the right thing in. There we go, click on that other one, that's much better. All right. So click on that other one. I'll share my screen. And you'll be taken to here. So I'm going to log in. Great. While this is logging in, I'm going to wait, give you guys 20 seconds to kind of get all this logged in and good to go. So as I said, what I want to happen is when I go to my bike title, and this is all my information on the Giant Contend SL1, I want to be able to hit book now. And when I book now, I want it to send me, this user account, an email saying, congratulations, you just booked a bike for, Wednesday, 9/23 at 9 a.m. Right? That's what I want to do. When I click the book now button, it sends me an email and says, congratulations, you just booked a bike for Wednesday at 9 a.m. All right, so I'm going to do 2 bookings. And in theory, 2 things more should show up on bikes bookings. There they go. Okay, so just a little bug. One thing you all should do is, to make this all work, is go to your content manager, then select the ... next to bikes bookings, choose edit settings, and then change this, who is this collection for, and change it to member generated content. and then hit save, and then everything will work. So you'll saw when I did those 2 new bookings, it added 2. So it added them right here, starting at 10, ending at 11, starting at 9, ending at 10. Is everyone getting that? So when they're able, when they hit they book now, they get a new bikes bookings. Right, so what we just did was we went to, when I go to preview and I go to, let's say, Wednesday, I hit book now for 10 a.m. If I go back to my editor, content manager, bikes bookings, you'll see here's the 10 a.m. booking that just got made. Nancy, when you get an error page, how do you get that error page? Like what button did you click that gives you the error? Oh, interesting. So on the content manager, Nancy, try and just do this ... and do edit settings. And then who's this collection for? And choosing member generated content and hit save. And if that still doesn't work, give your page a refresh. Sometimes the templating is a little bit wonky, but if you give a page a refresh, I bet it'll work. I'm gonna move forward. But Nancy, give that a shot and then send a message if it doesn't work still. So as I said, every time we book, we insert a new thing into bikes bookings. Right? Every time we book, we insert a new thing into bikes bookings. And so what that means is we want, whenever someone books a bike, right? So whenever a new bikes bookings is inserted, we want to send an email. So I'm going to close. I'm going to go to my bikes bookings. I'm going to hit the ... and I'm going to add and remove a hook. I'm going to click that. And I want to do an after insert hook. So this is a hook that will be called after a call to insert. So after someone inserts a bikes bookings, we're going to call our code. So I select that. I say add and edit code. And here we are. I have my bikes bookings after insert, right? And what I want to do now is let's just make sure this works. So I'm going to console log, console.log, inserted booking. Hit preview. Book now. Let's see my developer console. Oh, probably have to hit refresh. All right, let's go to preview again. Let me go to bikes title and hit preview. And there it goes, insert a booking. So it's working. You'll notice there's a B next to stuff because it's coming from the back end. And it says hook after insert for collection bikes booking, result ignored, expected hook result to resolve to an object with an ID property but got undefined. Pretty much what this is saying is a lot of times we use the after insert to do a bunch of things. And what that after insert hook is requiring is that you return the item itself, right? And so what we need to add is to go back to our editor, and we're going to write our first bit of code really here, which is the bottom. We're going to return the item. All right. And I'm going to open up an Etherpad and copy paste this into the Etherpad so you all can follow along. All right, and so if you need the code, here it is in the Etherpad. There you go, so you can get that ball rolling. So now I return the item at the end, I hit preview, and let me press this for something. And book now, there it is. Insert booking, no warning. Sweet, that's great. So we made our hook attached to our database, to our collection, right? To the insert element, the after insert hook. But what do we actually want to do? We want to send an email. So you can use a bunch of services. You know, if you had a custom setup with SendGrid or some other API that you wanted to use, you could 100% use it. But that's one, just like more complicated than we need. And actually, Wix has a pretty great email sending feature built into Wix. So we're going to use that. And the way we do that is we go to let's go to our dashboard. So settings, my dashboard. And then we're going to go to marketing and SEO. And we're going to select triggered email. That's what we are creating. That's the thing you want to Google, is a triggered email. So yet again, I went from my site, I went to settings, my dashboard. And then here in my dashboard, I went to marketing and SEO and triggered emails. So I click on that. And we know we triggered emails. Let's get started. So get started. My first email I want to build, what it's going to do is it's going to say, you know, you just booked a bike, borrowed a bike. Booked, I'll do all caps, you just booked a bike. And say here, you just booked a bike. And, all right, it's a little message, nice. You just booked a bike from, and then we're going to choose a start date. So we're going to add a variable. So I did that by selecting add variable on the left. And I'm going to say start date time. Booked a bike from to, and then our end date time. So I'm going to add variable, end date time, hit add. We're going to change our picture. Let's search for a picture of a bike. There we go. And I don't need this button, so I'm going to remove it. And then down here, I don't need all this stuff, so I'm just going to yank that off. There we go. So what we did is we made an email, and we put in some variables here, the start date time and end date time. And we're going to use these variables in our code to send the email and fill in that start date time and end date time. Right? We're going to put in the real thing there. So I'm going to pause quickly right here. Did everyone get here? They've made a triggered email. Any questions I can answer on creating a triggered email? What we're going to do is from our code, we're going to send. We're going to actually press the send button from code. Yeah, Lily. So I'm going to save this as a draft so I don't lose it. The way to get there is if you're on your the editor right here, we're going to go to settings, my dashboard. And then we're going to go to marketing and SEO. And then triggered emails. No problem. So I'm going to pull up this draft. And I'm going to keep the ball moving forward. I'm going to hit save and publish. and it's going to say I need to add sender details. So this is pretty much saying who's actually sending these emails. So I'm going to add details. I'm going to say from Joe Burgess, the reply to of Joe plus demo, sure, next. And it's going to send me an email, which I'm going to check my email. And I just got a new email. And my confirmation code was this. Great, sender details are saved. Hit save and publish, and now I should be good to go. Sweet, okay. So now it's gonna give us example code of how to work with this email, how to actually press send. The important thing here is there's an email ID, right? This is the ID of the email, so that it's a unique identifier for this specific email template. And we have to now choose who we want to email. Do we want to email some new contact or a site member? And in this case, we want to email a site member, right? We want to be able to email one of our users saying, congrats, you just booked a bike, right? So I'm going to copy this code they give me, and I'm going to go back to my Wix website editor. Go to my data.js, and I'm just going to copy and I'm going to paste. So I need to move this Wix users up above the function. And I need to enter the user ID here. The user ID is the person who booked the bike, which in this case is going to come from the item, and it's the owner of the bike booking. And that's because when we make it, we attach whoever clicked that button to that user account. That's item underscore owner. And we have two variables, just like we set in the template. The first is our start date time. The second is our end date time. And so we can add values right now. If I take a look at my content manager, bikes bookings, I have a start field and an end field. So that's what I'm going to use. So for enter value here, I'm going to do item dot start. It's been lowercase, item dot start. And here I'm going to do item dot end. All right, so I copy pasted the code. So yours is going to be a little bit different than mine. Here, I'll paste this into the Etherpad. Yours is going to be different because you're going to have a different ID for the email. So make sure you change out the email ID if you copy paste my code. And what we're going to do is I'm going to hit preview, and I'm going to see if this works. All right, so get my first error. Failed to load Wix data hooks. Cannot find module Wix-users. All right, no big deal. Let's see. Let's try and Google this error. All right, so we Google, we go on the forum. Doesn't look good here. Oh, interesting. It looks like there's a backend specific module. So let's learn more about that. Corvid, Wix users backend. Let's look at the API reference. The Wix users backend module contains functionality for working with your site's users from backend code. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. We want to work on our Wix users. We want to send them emails, but we're doing it from backend code, right? We're doing it from this after insert hook. Taking a look at the functions it provides, it seems like it's the kind of regular stuff, right? It seems pretty straightforward. So let's use that. Go to my website editor, back to editor, and I'm going to use Wix users dash backend. And everything else should just work. Pasted it into Etherpad. Okay, everything should work. Let's see. All right, no errors. Let's go to, I don't know, Friday at 9. And book now. Oh, all right. All right, cannot email contact. Variable start date time value must be a string. That makes sense. We got to do strings. We have to figure out how to convert this item start, which will come down as a JavaScript date time, JavaScript date. We have to convert that to a string. And there's a bunch of ways to do this. And so I'm actually always kind of surprised at how bad dates are in JavaScript. You can use an NPM package if you really want to. For me, just because we're kind of learning on the go, I like using the toLocale date string. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an options. Let me copy paste this from my code. So I'm going to add some options, and then I'm going to use it. So I'm going to say item.start.toLocale date string n dash us, and then I'm going to pass in the options, and I'm going to do the same thing for my end time. And what this is toLocale date string. It converts here, the little hover over, converts a date to a string, returning the date portion using the operating system's locales convention. And then since we passed in some options, it's also going to make the date style short and the time style short. If you want more information on this function, just Google it, and there's a bunch of documentation out there. So I'm going to copy paste this into Etherpad. And hit preview. And moment of truth. Insert a booking, no errors. So I'm gonna go check my email. All right. Let me log into my Gmail, and I'll show you all what this looks like on my side. In the meantime, everyone can try and catch up a bit. Any questions I can answer? All right, no questions, that's great. And what I'm gonna do is, all right, so this is the message I got. Nice, you just booked a bike from 9/6/20, 1 p.m. to 9/6/20, 2 p.m. This is from Wix.com. This is from the email we just sent. That's pretty cool, right? And it looks so professional. That's my favorite. I mean, like by now you all are probably, you get it. My favorite thing about Wix is that it just looks professional. Like I'm not a good designer. I didn't do much, but just immediately looks great. Okay, so we've now done one side of the conversation, right? We've now made the ability so that when you hit book now, you will actually get an email. And to go over this code again a bit more, go back. You can see I'm sending it to the owner of the item. The item is going to be a bike's bookings. And that underscore owner, all those fields that are auto-generated by Corvid use an underscore as a prefix. So for the owner, there's a prefix. There's a few other created at, updated at, ID. I think that's most of them. And for those, they use an underscore to show that it's auto-generated, and that you shouldn't be modifying it since it's all auto-generated. So we're going to have the owner. We're going to send that email to the owner, and we're going to include the start date and end date. Any questions on this? All right, next step. Now we sent an email to the person who booked the bike, but there's the person who is renting out the bike, and they need to get an email that says, congrats, someone just booked your bike, right? In the same way that on Airbnb, if I rent a room in a house, I get an email saying, congrats, you just rented a room in a house. And the host gets an email saying, hey, Joe just rented a room in your house. So now we want to build another email that sends it to the person who owns the bike saying, someone just booked your bike. Hey, Deanie. Deanie asks, are we supposed to know, question about back end or front end. Are we supposed to know when to use each, or should we just wait for error to tell us when to Google and use the back end? Okay, so there's two parts to that question. So back end versus front end, in general, so if you're doing something that's modifying the way something looks, you're going to want to use the front end. The back end is usually when you're doing very data heavy things. So if you're doing a data hook, that's the back end. If you're doing data heavy stuff, that should live on the back end. So in general, I guess I lean more towards the front end, and then I lean more towards the front end and do the back end only when I need to, but it's a little bit all over the place. For me, the rule of thumb is back end for really data heavy things and front end for anything that's modifying what's on the page. There's no hard answer to that, Deanie, and a lot of that comes also from just experience. You'll get better and better at understanding where things go, right? All right. Moving forward. So as I said, right now what I want to do is I want to build another email that sends an email to the host of the bike. If I got a person who owns the bike saying if bike was just booked. So let's first of all go set that email up. So I'm going to go to my settings, my dashboard, marketing and SEO, triggered emails. And I'm going to create a new one. And I'm going to say, your bike was just booked. Your bike was just booked. And then on here, I'll say, congrats. And we'll do a variable, and we'll say first name. So like, what I will say, Joe just booked your bike named, and then each bike has a title. So I'll say bike title. the booking starts at, and then we'll add a variable for the start date time. And, oh, whoops, at start date time. And ends at cool. Then let's change our image. Let's do another picture of a bike. Let's do this person on a bike. Oh, I don't want to buy that. Let's do no. Let's see what the other choices are from Wix. I want to do. Let's do this one. Why not? And yet again, we'll delete this button and remove these things at the bottom. Your bike was just booked. Congrats. First name, just booked your bike name, bike title. The booking starts at blah and ends at blah. Save and publish. And we're going to copy paste this code again. And bring it into our website editor. And we have to enter the user ID. So what the best way to do this is, just, and I'll copy paste this into the Etherpad. The best way to do this is just start filling these blanks out. So first things first, we need to figure out the user ID of the bike that was booked. Now, how the heck are we going to get to that? To do that, let's learn a bit about our databases. So we have bikes bookings. This is the item, right? So the item has a start and an end, and look, the bike. So this will give us the bike. And then once we have the bike, we'll then go back to our contact manager, go to bikes. And from here, we'll have the title. So we have to go from our item to the bike. And then with that bike, we'll then have the title. So first things first, I'm going to actually comment all this out because I want to kind of play with some stuff here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what's in item.bike. Hit preview. Book now. And this is what it printed out. This is an ID. This is an ID of the bike that we just clicked on. So we can now use that ID to retrieve the bike from the database. So let's go do that. I'm going to go back to editor. And I am going to import Wix data because I'll need that to work with the database. I'm importing Wix data. And then here, I'm going to say Wix data.get. I give it the collection name, which is bikes, the item ID, which is item.bike, and then I don't have any options. And then then it gives me the bike, and for the arrow function, I'm going to console.log bike just to make sure I have it correctly. Let's get my quotes right. Cool. I'm going to copy paste this into there. And what I'm doing here is I'm grabbing the bike with the ID from my item. And right now I'm just console logging it to see if I got the right thing. So let me hit preview. And there it is. This is the bike, right? Sharing features of Giant, blah, blah, blah. And here's my title, Giant Contend SL1, right? It's in the title called Giant Contend SL1. So does anyone want to post in the chat? What am I going to want? So now that I have the bike, let's say I want to work on the bike title. What do I want to do to get just the bike title, right? How would I get just the bike title? Anyone have any ideas? Go ahead and try and post them in the chat. Yeah, Ed, it's almost item.bike.title. Actually, what it's going to be is, remember, the item.bike just gives us the ID of the title. Sorry, ID of the bike. It gives us the ID of the bike. Then we're going to use wixdata.get to actually get the full bike. And then within these curly braces, we actually have the full bike, and we can do bike.title. Hit preview, and let it load. And there it is. So really close, Ed, really close. All right. So we have that. But actually, what's the first thing I need? I need the user ID of who I want to email. And the person I want to email is the owner of that bike. So with the bike, I can get its owner. Just like we did up here with item.owner, I can say bike_owner. And that's going to be the owner of this bike. So I'm going to hit preview. And so it doesn't look like it, but this is my user ID. I go back to editor. And I now have this. I'm going to copy paste all this stuff into here. And this user ID now can be bike.owner. Right? Now from the rest, we can do this all. So bike.owner, first name is going to be, I'll keep the first name in a sec. Bike title is going to be bike.title. Start date time, I'm going to do the same thing. Put it up here. And what we need to provide here is not, so we could just provide the owner's ID. So I can actually just test this and do bike._owner. And let me get all my tabs right. So this should just work. It'll be a little wonky, but let's work. So let's hit, I'm going to copy paste this into Etherpad. Hit preview. And no errors. Let me go check my email. And sweet, I have two emails. So I have this one, which is, remember, on the person who books the bike. Come on. So I have this, right? You just booked a bike. That's great. And then I also have the other side, which is your bike was just booked. Your bike was booked. Congrats. And then this crazy string, just booked your bike, name blah. The booking starts at this and ends at that, which is great, but that string is nuts. We don't want their user ID. We want their actual name, right? So let's get that working. So I don't want their user ID. I want their name. Where have we done this before? We've already done this once before, right? We had a ID, but we wanted some property of that thing, right? We did it right here, wixdata.get. So we're gonna have to do another wixdata.get. So I'm gonna do another one, wixdata.get. Actually, you know what? I don't even do that. I can do this with Wix users. There's actually a function built in to Wix users called Wix users.get user. And I can do bike, the owner of the bike. And then that gets me the user. And I'll copy paste all this into there. So now I have the user, and I can say, instead of bike owner, I say user.first name. Hit preview. And let's see. And I just pasted all that code into Etherpad, so you can give it a shot. Oh. Let's see what I got wrong. I don't know. Console log, console.log user. See if I got something wrong here. Oh, all right. Let's use, looks like first name's not there. So I'll use, let's use nickname. Why not? Or member name. I'll use member name. So back to editor. Member name. Hit preview. All right, everything seemed to work. Let me check my email. And there it is. Let me pull this in so you all can see it. Bike was just booked. Joe Demo just booked your bike, named that. There we go. That's pretty cool, right? I'm gonna take a pause and answer some questions. Anything I can answer, and David, I'm answering yours right now. Any questions I can answer? All right, progress. So we now send emails when someone books. We send both the email to the person that booked it and to the person that owns the bike. My last thing I want to do is I want to make a scheduled task that every week it sends an email out to all the people who have an upcoming booking, people who've booked things coming up, and says, hey, by the way, you have a thing coming up, right? A bike booking coming up. So let's get that done. So first things first, let me publish another triggered email. So I'll do this from scratch again. I'm going to go to settings, my dashboard, then marketing SEO, triggered emails. And looks like I want a new one. I'm going to say upcoming bike reservation. Upcoming bike reservation. I'll say, hello. You have a bike reservation starting at, and then I'll add a variable, start date time. The bike is located at, and then I'll give it a location. And let's change its picture. Bikes. Let's search for a commuter bike movie. Oh, this is good. Let's see, what are the options? What are the options? Look at these happy people on bikes. That's great. And move the button. And this is a template, right? I mean, there's a million different templates and you can do a bunch of them. I'm going to save and publish. And I'm going to come back to this. So I have this done. So first things first, let's find out how can we do a scheduled job? How can we do something every week, whatever, Monday at 9, every single week? If we Google this, Corvid scheduled jobs, we get a Help Center article. That's it's a video, which is awesome. And it says we need to configure a job. There's like a jobs array. And okay, cool. So what it does is it runs a specific function. So first things first, let me create a new schedule. So I'm gonna go over here, backend files, say plus, I'm gonna say new job scheduler. And we get this. I'm gonna delete this first one. And we're just gonna use option 2. And so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna paste this into Etherpad. And the way I got here, just to remind everyone, I hit the plus next to backend files, new job scheduler. Now, I need a function located in some sort of backend file to call. I don't have that yet. So let me make a new backend file and a new function that will check for who to send these emails to, right? So I'm gonna make a new backend file, and I'm gonna make it a web module. It just makes things easier. The difference between a backend file, a new JS file, and a new web module is the web modules allow me to call it from the front end as well. And I'm going to want that because inevitably I'll want to kick these off without doing the scheduler. So we're going to say a new web module. And I'm going to call it, I don't know, bookings checker. All right, I'm gonna delete all this stuff. And let's make a new function, export function check for upcoming. And what this needs to do is, first things first, I need to figure out the two dates. I need to figure out the date for today and the date for 7 days from today. Then I need to query our bikes bookings database and ask for everything where the start is between today and a week from today. And then for each of those items, I need to send an email out. So first things first, let's get it so that I can get get the dates. So to do this, you Google a bit, kind of annoying. So I'm just gonna show you how to do it. I'm gonna say let today equals new date. Let 1 week from today equals new date. Then we set 1 week from today dot set date is 1 week from today dot get date plus 7. It's pretty much saying grab today and put it into today. Grab today and put it into 1 week from today. Then grab 1 week from today and set the date, so like the actual day number, to be today plus 7. So I'm gonna put this into the Etherpad. Great, so it's in the Etherpad, so you can play with it. And let's make sure this works. So I'm just gonna console log today and console.log 1 week from today. Now, this is great, but who's going to call this function? The person who needs to call this function is our job scheduler. So I'm going to go over to our job scheduler, the jobs.config. The file name is going to be /bookings checker. The function name is check for upcoming, right? And I'll describe my job. Check for upcoming bookings and send emails. And I'll set it at 8 a.m. every day, and I'll put a day of the week, so it should go out on Mondays. All right. One problem here. If we have to wait till 8 a.m. on Monday, we're going to be here all week. So what we can do is, just to kick things off, do a // and actually let's just make the time equal to now plus a minute. So we have to do the UTC time. So what is current UTC time? Looks like 10:15 p.m. I'll do 24-hour. 22:15. So let's set it to 22:17. That way we know it'll run in a minute. And I'm going to hit publish because we have to publish this scheduler. Done. Don't show this again. Great. And now the question is, where does our console logs come up? The answer is a new thing we're going to learn about Corvid. You can get backend logs through Corvid. So if we go to settings, my dashboard, then settings again over here, there is site monitoring. And we open this site events, and now it is live recording anything we do. So the way I did that, I went to settings, my dashboard, then settings, site monitoring, then open. Now in theory, at 6:17 my time or 22:17 UTC, we should get some logs. Let's see. I just did it, 22:17. Let's give it some time. And what's going to happen is eventually this will give us a log, but this will get annoying pretty quick. Let's see, where is this log? It's probably not going to like that. So let me copy paste this into here. Logs aren't showing up. It'll show up eventually, or I may not have hit publish in time. So we'll run it again at maybe 22:19. What I'm going to do just for demonstration's sake is I am going to make a new button that actually allows us to that allows us to kick this off whenever we want. All right, so what I'm going to do is let me just drag an old button here. There it goes. David, don't need to restart it. So you can actually see this is my log. And you can see it printed out the 29th, which is a week from today, and the 22nd, which is today. But as I said, I don't have to keep waiting for this schedule while I'm beta testing things. So I'm going to make a new button and make that button kick off my function. So I'm going to hit add, button, drag something on. Great, there it is. And I'm just going to, for this button, actually, let me drag this not into the footer. Let me drag it out of the footer. And I'm going to do on click. And now we have a button on click, and let's just make sure that works. Preview. And this button I'm going to erase. I'm just doing it to kick off my function. Cool, I got that working. Now I'm going to import this import check for update. Upcoming, sorry. From slash backend slash no, it's just backend slash booking checker. So this is me just importing this function. And I'm just gonna run it here. You guys don't need to do this. This is just something so that I can kind of show you all what's going on. Great. So now I hit preview. And whenever I hit the button, it runs my code. Great. Back to editor, let's get my code to work. So I have my basic code here, and I'll copy paste this into the Etherpad. But I want to actually do a query. So let's import, as usual, import my Wix data. And let's do a query. So I'm going to say Wix data dot query. I'm looking for bikes bookings. And then I'm going to say between, the start is between today and 1 week from today. And then let's see what we get. And console.log items, or I'll do response, I'll say. And let's see, I'm going to do preview. Let's see if this worked. Click my button. Oh. Something is not a function. Oh, whoops, I know what I forgot. I forgot it has to be .find. There we go, hit preview. Hit the button. And there they are. So here's all my different bookings that are between now and a week from now. Looks like there's 17. So let me go back to my editor. That's great. Now for each of those, I want to send an email. So let me copy paste the email stuff they gave me. Here it is. Copy. And in here, I'm going to do, going to iterate over the items. So I'm going to do for let index equal response dot items const booking equals response dot items at index. Oh, whoops. And what I want to do is just to make sure things are working, I'm going to do console.log booking dot let's say start. So let me copy paste this code in. And hit preview. Hit the button. And there's all of our starts. All right, it's looking good. So now we have the starts. Now what we need to do is actually send the emails. So let me grab that email. And instead of console logging, let's do all of this stuff. So you get the start date time and the bike location. So I'm going to use our start date time that we've now kind of gotten very good at doing. So I'm going to first make an options. And then I'm going to do what we've done a bunch of times. So I'm going to do booking start, right? And then for bike location, now it gets a little bit harder. So does our booking know about the location of the bike directly? Let me show you what's in the booking. Does our booking know about the location of the bike? Can someone answer me? Yeah, the booking doesn't know anything about the bike location. So from this, so what we have to do is do the same thing as a bunch, which is get bike information, and from there, get its actual location. So we've done this a million times now. It should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to first get wixdata.get. Oh, I'm going to use the users. Say wix users.get. Oh, no, I want data, right? Wix data.get bikes. And then we're going to pass in the booking.bike. And then we'll have the bike in this function. And we'll do all this work inside this function here. So I'll make this bigger. Cut, paste. It's legible. And now we can fill everything out. So the ID of the person we're emailing is the owner of the booking. So we're going to do booking._owner. And then the location is going to be in the bike. So here we're going to do bike.location. And then in there's a thing called formatted, which is the formatted location. And we have an issue at Wix users. So let's add in it's import Wix users. And before I hit run, any questions on this code I just wrote? I just put all the code in the Etherpad. It's a little bit complicated, but I'm getting all my bookings. And then for each booking, I'm grabbing the booking itself. I'm then grabbing the book, the bike it's attached to. Then I'm emailing the user who owns the booking, saying the start time from the booking and the bike's location. Just to save my own personal inbox, I'm going to delete a bunch of these bookings. We've made a ton, so I'm just gonna delete a bunch. Now I just have one booking. No, so Lily asked, is it not user nickname instead of owner? And it's gonna be the booking owner because we don't, in this case, we need the ID of the user, not their name. So we need the ID, and the ID is like this big long string of kind of weird characters. And so that's why we have to use owner. The nickname is like a string, not an ID. We hit preview. And I'm gonna hit the button. No errors. Now let me check my email. Sweet, it worked. All right, let me pull this in. Upcoming bike reservation. Hello, you have a bike reservation starting at 8 p.m. The bike is located at 111 New York, blah, blah, blah. And Nancy, as we just shown, the bike.location.formatted is not the latitude and longitude. What that is actually kind of like the English string formatted version of the address. It's this thing right here. It worked. So now what we need to do is one last thing, which is we need to actually attach this to a job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my editor, and I'm going to go to my backend code. I'm going to go to my jobs.config, and I'm going to make sure this works. And so I'm going to set it to run at, and this is UTC time, so UTC 2336, let's say, and I hit publish. And now you can see actually all the console logging has already come up here. But if I clear this, and we'll wait a bit, and on every day at 2336 UTC, this will run. Eventually we'll add in a day of the week, so it only happens once a week. But I have it put in, we'll wait a bit to see if it runs. While it waits, any questions I can answer? This is the last thing we're gonna do together. Any questions I can answer? Anything at all? You have me only for another few minutes. As a reminder, tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time, you get a chance to have a Q&A with developer advocates from Wix. So people who work at Wix, ask them questions, ask them about what's coming down the pipe, ask them about new features, and you should be there. So tomorrow at noon, please come. It'll be an opportunity to ask developer advocates more about Wix and kind of how Wix works and all that. And Lily asked how long is the recorded class on YouTube? They're going to be on YouTube for another few months, still plenty of time. We'll email out everyone the YouTube and all the final code and everything tomorrow. So you'll have all this in YouTube. Aaron Kim, you raised a hand. How can I be helpful? You can chat something or put in the Q&A. Remember, tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time, we'll send a reminder email out tomorrow morning as well. Aaron asks, is there a way to process a sample payment through the developer website? Absolutely. So Corvid has payments built in. Wix Pay, which allows you to do all this stuff. And if you go in through here, you can have an example account, which allows you to process payments, with an example account, so the money doesn't actually change hands. Oh, whoops! I know that's why I'm working. It's not 2336. It's 2236. I'm gonna set this to 2238. Let's see if I get it in time. So Aaron, that may answer your question. If you go to the stuff, Wix-Pay does everything for you. I mean, doesn't do everything for you, but it makes, I think, a lot of the hard stuff done for you. It's great. And we'll wait one more minute, and hopefully I got it right now. That was my fault. Let's see. Any other questions I can answer? Remember, tomorrow at noon. All right, let's see. No, I think 2238. 22:38. It can take a few seconds for it to run. All right, there it is. So it ran, it gave us our two little outputs. And if I check my email, I should be getting it. No errors. Let's see. All right, I got it. There it is. Upcoming bike reservation, same deal, but now I know that it's working. So the review, what we kind of went over today, we went over how to set up automated scheduled jobs. So if I change this, actually, I can change this, say, it'll now run on Mondays at 22:38 UTC. We learned how to hook into hooks, how to hook into data hooks, we learned about backend programming, learn more about backend programming, and we learned how to send emails. Pretty exciting. That is all I have. We're going to send out the solution to this to everyone tomorrow with all the YouTube information. Are there any questions I can answer? I'm going to give you all 2 minutes, and then I'll log off, and you can always email me at joe@flatironschool.com. Thanks so much. Raise your hand. I didn't see it was, but if you were, just send a question. All right, I'm going to call it. Send me an email, joe@flatironschool.com. It's been fantastic teaching you all. And I hope to see you tomorrow at noon for noon Eastern time to meet with or develop the Wix developer advocates. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.